Alright, listen up. Self-help gurus peddle the same old fluff. Follow your passion. Stay positive. Visualize success. It's all just feel-good garbage that keeps you stuck. Real growth doesn't come from cheesy Instagram posts with a sunset in the background. It comes from brutal, inconvenient truths. I'm Mark Manson, a 3-time #1 New York Times bestselling author, and I'm here to say, no more cliches. No more bullshit sunsets. No more fake motivation. I've dug through history to unearth 14 quotes. Diamonds in the rough that will smash those self-help cliches and actually move the needle for you. Stop wasting your time on empty promises, because here's the real wisdom you've never heard before. 1. He who fears he shall suffer already suffers from what he fears. Michel de Montaigne, the guy who invented the personal essay and was obsessed with his cat, understood a fundamental truth. Our suffering is often more about expectation than reality. This quote is a blunt reminder that worrying about future pain can be just as miserable as the pain itself. Think about it. How many times have you stressed endlessly over something, only for it to be nowhere near as bad as you imagine, or, more often, for it not to happen at all? There's a reason for this. It's like my own mantra. The emotions you avoid will control you. The emotions you face will free you. We spend so much energy trying to outrun discomfort, but in doing so, we often create a new, more insidious form of suffering, the anxiety of avoidance. A fun fact for you, a University of Cincinnati study found that a staggering 85% of what we worry about never actually comes to pass, 85%. So, next time your brain starts spinning terrifying scenarios, remember you're already paying the price for something that probably won't even happen. Stop worrying. Start living. Point 2. You'll worry less about what people think about you when you realize how seldom they do. David Foster Wallace. See, when I first read David Foster Wallace's Infinite Jest back in 2010, I was a mess of social anxiety. This single line hit me like a splash of ice water. For years, it became my mantra in every social situation I've shared it countless times because it's a profound truth about human nature. This quote points to something psychologists call the spotlight effect, our natural tendency to believe that everyone is paying far more attention to us than they actually are. We walk into a room, convinced all eyes are on us, scrutinizing our clothes, our words, our every move. But the reality is, most people are too wrapped up in their own heads, their own anxieties, their own lives, to give you more than a fleeting thought. Understanding this can be incredibly liberating. It frees you from the exhausting burden of constantly performing for an imagined audience. Because the fact is, they probably aren't thinking about you at all. 3. Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. And then think about the most pivotal moments in your life. Were they comfortable, easy, or were they intimidating, demanding you step up and face something uncomfortable? It's usually the latter. The most significant moments in life are often the most intimidating, and those intimidating moments demand courage. Therefore, your courage is directly proportional to the significance and impact you'll have in your life. Some ancient Greek philosophers even argued that courage must be the first virtue, simply because it's a prerequisite for all the others. You can't be honest without the courage to speak your truth. You can't be compassionate without the courage to feel another's pain. The more courageous you are, the wider your horizons become. You open yourself up to more possibilities, more actions, and ultimately, a broader, more impactful life. There's a profound logic to that, and it's an idea we'll revisit later. 4. One must choose in life between boredom and suffering. Madame de Stael, de Stael, an 18th century French philosopher who didn't pull any punches. She was an outspoken critic of kings, the Reign of Terror, and even Napoleon, yet somehow managed to keep her head. I love this quote because it taps into a deep Buddhist principle. Whether she knew it or not, we try to escape boredom through constant stimulation and craving. But here's the catch. All stimulation and craving eventually lead to a come down, an experience of lacking what you craved, which then causes suffering. It's a vicious cycle. You can either jump on the roller coaster of worldly pleasures and pains, chasing highs that inevitably lead to lows. Or you can withdraw, subjecting your mind to the sheer, sometimes uncomfortable, boredom of intense meditation and detachment from all worldly experiences. The Buddha would encourage the latter. Madame de Staël, to her credit, seemed to choose valiant suffering. But if pain is inevitable, and it is, it makes sense that we try to avoid it. Which brings us to a doozy of a quote. 5. All sins are attempts to fill voids. True virtue lies in the recognition and acceptance of one's own emptiness, without desperately trying to fill it. Simone Weil, there's this desperate need within us to feel like we're doing something, accomplishing something, gaining something. Without it, we often feel completely empty. We can try to fill this void with constructive, moral pursuits, building something meaningful, helping others. Or we can fill it with compulsive, dysfunctional ones, endless social media scrolling, binge-watching shows, or maybe playing League of Legends for 14 hours straight and still being stuck in Bronze League. You goddamn loser. The first crucial step to managing that internal emptiness is simply to accept that it's there, that it doesn't always have to be filled. You can just be, man. Just because you weren't productive doesn't make you less of a person. Just because you're not caught up on the latest trend, or that viral meme all the cool kids are talking about, it doesn't make you less of a person, or does it? Just kidding. Maybe. You hard-stuck feed Lord. 6. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself as I am, then I can change. Carl Rogers, affectionately known as Big Daddy Carl in some circles, was probably the most influential psychologist you've never heard of. His immense contribution to clinical psychology was his argument that genuine growth begins with a non-judgmental look in the mirror. He championed unconditional positive regard, a fancy term for accepting ourselves and others without imposing a bunch of arbitrary standards and conditions. Our usual instinct is to believe we have to punish, shame, or guilt ourselves into improvement. Rogers flips this on its head. He argued that the more we fight who we are, the more stuck we become. So, embrace your quirks, own those awkward dance moves, come to terms with your prodigious talent for procrastination. Ironically, that acceptance is precisely what's going to set you free. It's only when you stop trying to be someone you're not that you can truly become who you're meant to be. 7. Genius is nothing more or less than childhood recovered at will. Charles Baudelaire's quote stopped me in my tracks. What is genius, really? The cliche says talent hits a target everyone else can see, but a genius hits a target no one else even knows is there. What does that have to do with childhood? Think about it. To see something no one else sees, you need a certain freedom and curiosity, untainted by the outside world. Kids dream up things without worrying about the mortgage or tomorrow's deadlines. They play spontaneously, without concern for judgment or improving their credit score. It's this freedom from social pressure, this willingness to look where no one else is looking, to follow one's raw, untainted passion, that allows creative genius to flow. The takeaway? Tap back into that raw sense of wonder, even if it feels silly. Genius isn't always about high IQ numbers. Sometimes it's about giving yourself permission to take a shot at something no one else is even considering. 8. I have forced myself to contradict myself in order to avoid conforming to myself. Marcel Duchamp. God, I love this quote. It goes so hard. Marcel Duchamp was nothing if not a contrarian. The guy once put a urinal in an art gallery and called it a fountain. In our current world, we talk a lot about online echo chambers, our tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs. What gets talked about less is what psychologists call confirmation bias, our tendency to be our own echo chambers. There's a natural human inclination to only seek out what's already pleasing and comfortable, what already aligns with our own beliefs and tastes. Duchamp recognized that, in art, this is the death of creativity. Creativity demands a willingness to step outside your comfort zone, to allow yourself to be challenged, often challenged by yourself. This holds true across all areas of life. We must constantly be willing to contradict our own assumptions and preferences, if for no other reason than to see if what we think we want is actually what we truly want. We must resist the trap of becoming our own cliché. The alternative is simply self-imposed stagnation. By the way, here are a couple of bonus quotes for you. You can't be a life-changing presence to some people's lives without being a complete joke and embarrassment to others. Or how about, learning more is a smart person's favorite form of procrastination. You like those? I got more where those came from, because I fucking said them. 9. The highest reward for a person's toil is not what they get for it, but what they become for it. John Ruskin. In an age where hustle culture glorifies the big paycheck or the promotion, Ruskin's words ring truer than ever. Maybe the real perk of the grind isn't the shiny trophy. Maybe it's the skills and character you develop along the way. Think about it. The big payoffs come and go. Money can be spent. Plaques gather dust. But your skills, the ones you develop through effort, those are yours forever. There's that old cliche, you are what you eat. Well, another way to think about it is, what you do is what you become. If you consistently put yourself under pressure and live a life full of challenges, you will grow into a person who handles pressure and overcomes challenges. It's pretty plain and simple. It's not about the destination. It's about the person you evolve into on the journey. 10. Break a vase. And the love that reassembles the fragments is stronger than the love which took its symmetry for granted. Derek Walcott. In Japanese culture, there's a practice called kintsugi, where cracked pottery is mended with gold, making the piece more valuable than it was before. I see this concept as a beautiful metaphor for life, especially for relationships and our own resilience. The most important things in life often become more valuable the more they are damaged and subsequently repaired. A muscle grows stronger after you stress it. We become more resilient after handling adversity. Our relationships deepen and become more intimate once we've been tested by a shared shitstorm. And often, in retrospect, it's our heartaches that strike us as the most meaningful experiences. You truly don't know what a relationship is made of until you've been through tough times together. You don't know what you're made of until you've dealt with pain and setbacks. You don't know how strong you can become until you've consistently tested your limits and made yourself feel weak. It's our scars, therefore, that make us strong and beautiful. 11. Excellence is not an aspiration. Excellence is the next 5 minutes. Tom Peters will often imagine excellence as some far-off result, something we aspire to and work towards for years. This quote brilliantly flips that expectation on its head. Sure, excellent results happen far off in the future, but excellence in action happens each and every single moment in everything we do. It's the extra 5 minutes you spend fine-tuning a project. It's the effort you put into the email you send in the morning. It's the decision to actually talk to your coworker instead of ghosting them on Slack. It's the care you put into any task, no matter how small. Excellence isn't some grand destination. It's the sum of countless tiny, intentional efforts. It's the commitment to doing your best right now. 12. It's not the notes you play. It's the notes you don't play. Miles Davis. When I was in music school, I went through a phase where I was obsessed with Miles Davis. I listened to every album, read his autobiography. Aside from being perhaps the most influential musician of the 20th century, Miles Davis was a badass who took shit from nobody. In an era where jazz musicians were cramming as many notes into a song as they had breath to play, Davis made his name by taking the opposite approach, playing with the space between the notes. It turns out, this is a profoundly useful metaphor for life. Who you are is arguably determined not just by what you do, but by what you choose not to do. Trying to do it all only muddies and complicates the song of your life. The melody gets lost in the chaos. But stepping back and only doing what is truly important to you, only doing what truly expresses you, that gives all of your actions weight, significance, and impact. So, be conscious of what you do, but be even more conscious of what you do not do. This is the path to clarity and impact. 13. Freedom is not the absence of commitments, but the ability to choose and commit oneself to what is most deeply meaningful. True liberty exists not in escape, but in purposeful engagement. Nicholas Berdyaev. A Russian philosopher who lived through the Russian Revolution. knew a thing or two about oppression and freedom. In Western culture, we often have a mistaken view of freedom as simply having more optionality. Choosing from 18 different types of coffee creamers is seen as a form of freedom. Having 400 movies and TV shows to stream is seen as the epitome of freedom. Sure, dishing responsibilities can feel like freedom for a hot minute, but real liberation happens when you decide what truly matters to you and then go all in on it. Research actually shows that more optionality doesn't make us happier. It often cripples us with anxiety that we're not making the best choice. Ultimately, a meaningful life requires constraints, and it's the ability to choose our own constraints that sets us free. It's the difference between being pulled in a million directions and purposefully directing your own energy. 14. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking that they don't have any. Alice Walker powerlessness is a mindset more than it is a fact. Modern psychology shows us that there's a self-fulfilling prophecy to our beliefs about ourselves. If you're convinced that you're powerless, you'll stop trying before you even start. Whereas if you always assume you have some agency, then you'll look for better choices and create better results. The truth is, you always have some form of power, no matter the context, no matter the situation. No matter how bad things get, you have the power to decide. How am I going to see this? How am I going to respond to this? How am I going to get better at League of Legends and get the fuck out of Bronze League? Put another way, you don't necessarily always have the power over the things that happen to you, but you always have the power of how you react to the things that happen to you. Or, to put it even more succinctly, here's a bonus quote from Jean-Paul Sartre. Freedom is what you do with what is done to you. And this is where courage comes back into play. Because I think we give away our personal power not because we don't have any, but simply because we lack the courage to exercise it. So there you have it. 14.5 quotes I love, ones you'll never see, on a cheesy motivational poster in a break room. And probably for good reason. But if you enjoyed this, check out my other video where I share 40 pieces of advice I would have given to my younger self. I'll see you over there.